Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Brent Harding, and welcome to the Wealth Warriors broadcast for today. It is my pleasure every single week to welcome you to the broadcast. We are talking about wealth. We are getting prepared for wealth, and I'll tell you what. Nothing more exciting when then life is starting to converge on us and things are going the way we want them to go. The most important thing at this juncture is that we not sabotage anything that we are doing that's going to get us to where we want to be. So we're continuing the discussion on wealth. We're continuing the discussion on commitment. And so before we get underway, I want to give you a news bite. We're going to start to add news bites or news flashes to our broadcast. And so the first of the news flashes is this. Have you looked at the job numbers? Have you looked at the job outcome? Have you looked at those? And I'll tell you why. Because right now, what we're seeing in the United States is we're seeing jobs. However, what we're also noticing and noting is that we are being moved, we're being motivated, we're being cajoled, if you will, into entrepreneurship. The job reports spoke about entrepreneurship. And I'll tell you what, I've heard it before, but not like I heard it now. What I heard clearly is they were letting us know what groupings of individuals really need to be considering entrepreneurship. The first group that they talked about were people that were baby boomers. And in fact, you are seeing more and more entities reaching out to them and saying, you want to own your own business. Secondly, on the job report, which was really pretty surprising for me, and that was the encouragement for millennials, people between the ages of 21 to 35, that they would want to own their own businesses. Because what was being said is that the income that they are going to need in order to pay off the debts that they've incurred when they got those degrees is going to require that they get paid abominably, that they really reach out for their full potential. If you feel that you're worth $100,000 a year, then guess what? I always used to say, plan B, employ me, employ yourself, because you are the CEO of Me Inc. We are all the CEOs of our own selves. And that was the message that I heard from that jobs report just this week. Again, two entities, millenniums, and ironically enough, baby boomers. So what's fascinating is the more we learn, the more we hear that these two groupings are synergized together. Not only they're synergized with jobs, they're synergized, in a matter of speaking, with lifestyle, because baby boomers want their lifestyle to continue throughout retirement, and the millenniums want to have a lifestyle. So they are in fact converging. And one of the ways that we can really put ourselves in position for that is by being committed. That's right, being committed to what we say we're going to do. And commitment doesn't always have to be about being realistic. Commitment is about what you want and how you create the trajectory to get there. So I want you to know that, yes, in fact, I completed step 7. And I shared with you that I wasn't going to tell you what step 7 was. You were going to have to get the manual yourselves. You were going to have to get the work done yourselves. And I know there are some people that are out there doing it, and Bob's going to share that with us. That's right. We have Robert Randolph back with us, the author of a fantastic book. And I apologize. Let me get the cover of that so that everybody can see that. And I have been reading that, and I take it back. I did not bring it downstairs with me. I have all the other parts of the book. However, Robert will be able to tell you that himself. It has been an amazing journey for me personally, and I hope it's been for you. So without further ado, why don't we bring Robert on? And Robert, are you there?
I'm here, Brent, and good morning. And good
And
morning to you, and good morning to all the listeners out there.
fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what, sir, good morning back at you. And first and foremost, before we get underway, would you tell everybody the title of the book that you wrote?
Yes, it's called Mastering the Power of Commitment, and that's the title uh, of the work.
Mastering, and it is clearly about mastering. Well, I've got to tell you something before you get underway. I want to share this with you. Step 7 was no easy task getting that paper down the toilet.
Yes, it's kind of like starting out life anew. It's turning over a new leaf. It's letting go of the past. It's moving to the future. It's moving to your future consciously now. So you are now a committed woman. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. And yes, it was a commitment for everybody that is following this. I said I wasn't going to share step 7 with you. What was going to be needed was that you were going to have to get the manual. However, for those that didn't get it, there's still opportunity. And what step 7 said was that that first list that you had, you are not keeping that list. You are tearing that list up. And I'll tell you, not only did I tear it up, I then put it through the shredder so that it was small enough so that I could actually do what it said here, which was after you vigorously wrote through every single line, you would have flushed the tiny pieces down the toilet. And I got to tell you, I tried to get that thing as small as I could. But here's the great news is that it's now on to step 8, which this morning, I'll tell you, it was a pleasure. I just want you to see step 8, all the pages. There are 3 pages that I had to read this morning of commitment. And I read all of them, Bob. I just want you to know I read all of them.
Great, great. Wow. Yes, so what you've done in step 7 is you've made what's called a symbolic gesture to your subconscious. And you've sent a very strong message to your subconscious that you no longer want to be associated with those commitments that you had made in the past. And now you're on step 8, which is beginning to have a daily practice of reviewing your commitments to reinforce them to yourself and your self-conscious so that your self-conscious can go to work and bring those things to fruition. So you're on your way, Brent.
Well, I'll tell you what, first and foremost, it's great to be on my way. I appreciate it tremendously. What I hope is that all of our wealth warriors who are committed to wealth will do the same thing, because the journey is 100,000 families that are positively affected by what we do, by these weekly broadcasts. You know, I actually put on my list that I would be committed to every Saturday getting up, being ready to do this broadcast, to bring this information, because, you know, a journey of one, you know, yeah, you could do it by yourself, but we are people that we like to help people, that we're in this journey together, because being at the top with nobody to talk to, it's not fun. It's
No.
not life, is it? Bob, speak to that. Being on this journey to get to wealth using commitment as a vehicle. Talk to us.
Well, I think it's, as I've said in the past, it's a very powerful foundation. Uh, you know, it's the floor, it's the place that you stand. It's that place that you draw the line in the sand and say, no more, I am going forward, and this is where I am going. So you've made a very powerful statement, not just powerful, but an impactful statement to the universe that this is it. And I am committed. And I love what you just said about being committed to doing this broadcast every Saturday morning. That's a very, very powerful commitment. And it shows, and it will benefit those 100,000 people that you talked about. So it's not just wealth. Wealth is an important part of it. It's you can commit to anything. Anything that you want to have, that you want to do, and any state of being that you want to achieve. That's all available through you, through how strongly and how consciously you commit to having that. So that's
Bob, you.
my two
Oh,
cents.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's my 2 cents worth.
In your book on page 20, you talk about applying the process in a relationship. Talk to us about that process, whether it's our spouse, whether it is a significant other, whoever we are in that intimate relationship with. Talk to us about how you apply this process of commitment in a relationship.
Oh, I'd be happy to. The thing about that's one of my pet peeves in a way. People go around, well, I'm committed to Sally Jane, or I'm committed to Billy Joe. I'm really committed. And what they fail to understand is that it's not just a commitment. It is a list of commitments that you are making to that person or should make to that person. And that person in turn should reciprocate those commitments. And you should sit down together and make a list. One of the most wonderful relationships I've had, and continue to have, by the way, because I share my commitments with my significant other even today. But shortly after I discovered the process, I sat down with the person I was in relationship with, and I made a list of my commitments, and I had her make a list of her commitments. And it was everything. We're committed to showing up on time. We're committed to doing what we need to do to make the relationship work. We were committed to, and it's a whole string of commitments. And so, I was committed to her well-being, and I let her know that. And so we went over our lists together. We made an agreement on the things that we wanted to support on their commitment list, and you actually commit to supporting that person's commitment. And as a result of that, all the trivia of the relationship just absolutely disappeared. And what I mean by trivia in the relationship, you know how that person didn't put down the toilet seat. You get all angry about that. All that becomes a big issue. And that stuff just faded away. And certain things that had been acrimonious in the relationship, certain things that triggered arguments even, just faded away, and they became things that we could laugh at because we knew that the most important thing about our relationship was the commitments that we shared and the commitments that we were committed to. And that was the most important thing, and everything else was truly trivia. And we could work through them very easily. It was amazing. So that's the way to develop a very powerful relationship. That goes for not only significant others, but it also goes for business partners.
Well, you know what, Bob, before you go into business partners, though, let me, I appreciate that because I did want to roll into business, but there was a couple of things that I noted in the manual. And one of the things that you said was if you're not able to negotiate, you said that sometimes there are items that it says you completely disempower you or go against the grain, and you actually used the word integrity, which I thought was pretty powerful. You said you may at this point have to decline the offer of partnership or being related intimately. That's pretty strong. What are you saying there?
Well, everybody is looking for a soulmate, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
this is one way of determining whether you've found your soulmate. If you have, if that if that list of things that you can't agree on is that large, then really you are just beating your head against the wall, I think. And that's clearly one way to see. People talk about compatibility in relationships. That's a fundamental part of being compatible, is if you have goals in common and goals that you can support, then the more of those you have, the more compatible you are. And the fewer of those you have, uh, the less compatible you are. And you should re-examine
So
that.
let me ask you this. Okay, when exactly should we be doing this list? I mean, this would almost sound like you should be doing this on day one.
Yes. Well, I absolutely agree. You should be doing this on day one because people get all sucked into. I'll tell you a funny story. I was locked into a relationship for about 10 years that just wasn't working. It was only working off and on, and boy, I wish I would have saved myself almost 10 years if I had sat down and actually made this list. I'd saved myself at least 9.5 years, at least at a minimum, and I probably would have saved myself 10 years total. Because
Whoa.
I'm telling you, this separates the wheat from the chaff. I mean, it's just it's remarkable. And by the way, it is can sometimes be difficult to find people who want to be in a relationship who will agree to this kind of clarity in the relationship, and that's a red flag too.
Huge. It's interesting because as you think about this, when we talk about wealth, one of the things that also needs to be clear is there are things that get in the way. I notice you call them stompers. There are things that can get in the way of that destination. If you are going the journey by yourself, you are still in a relationship with yourself. If you are going on that journey with somebody else, then they could be the stopper. Is that right, Bob?
Yes, if you have, I see this in unfortunately a lot of relationships is one person has a set of commitments and they're charging along on those commitments, and the other person doesn't share those commitments. One of my best friends had a situation where she was charging along, building a marvelous, marvelous series of workshops for mothers and daughters. And she got married to this guy, and lo and behold, he wasn't committed to the same things that she was committed to, building this marvelous series of workshops and a network. And subsequently he had to go away because he became a distraction in her life rather than helping her put together these workshops. He walked around with his mouth poked out because she wasn't available a lot of the times when he thought she should be available. And subsequently, after 2 or 3 years, they parted ways, and it's all very sad because had he made a commitment to her commitments, then that would never have come up. And if he couldn't make that commitment, they probably wouldn't have gotten together, and it was probably a good thing for both parties. So yes, it's very important.
Well, Bob, here's the deal, though. We come into each other's lives. We both had lives before we came together. I don't want to be committed to your dog and pony show, but I will be supportive of your dog and pony show. I want to be committed to the things I'm doing over here. How do those universes work
Oh,
together?
that's true. I mean, that's part of the mutual commitment process. Is you agree to support those things, the other person's commitments, and they may be totally different. But as long as you've agreed to support them, then you're in good stead. On good ground. It's that not agreeing to support the other person's commitments. No, you don't have to have the same commitments or anything for sure. But as long as the important thing is that you can support the other person's commitments. And that's the key. Number one, the key is knowing what they are, which most people don't.
Mm.
Number two is then being able to support them and declare your support for them so that that person knows that when the chips are down, that you're there to support their commitments and whatever they're committed to. Very.
I will say, I like that. When the chips are down, you
Yeah,
will be there to support my commitment. You may not agree with it. It is mine, but you will be there to support me working my way through. Is that what I hear you saying?
absolutely. And you've agreed to support it at least. You may not have the same commitment or be as committed to that as the other person, but you can certainly commit to support that person's commitments. And
Okay.
that's the key, is the support.
Is the support. So, folks, did you hear? Did everybody hear a nugget? That hashtag, I will support her. Hashtag, I will support him. Put it up there, because if we cannot be committed to that person's universe, in a matter of speaking, or what their endeavor is, we can commit to support them in their endeavor. Am I right about that, Bob?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And see that we go along, and you see, because in many cases we go along unconscious of our own commitments, and the other person is unconscious of their commitments, but they're committed to something. As I said early on in the early discussion of commitment, is we're always committed to something. We're never not committed. Question is, what are we committed to? And so normally we just go along, unconsciously committed to a bunch of stuff, and our partner is committed to a bunch of stuff, and we never know it until all of a sudden some crisis comes, and we have to face this commitment that we've made, and both parties have to face that commitment. All of a sudden we find out that there's no way I could support that person doing that sort of thing. And it becomes a nightmare at that point, and it's a disaster, actually.
Bob, in relationships, and I know that folks are going, okay, Brent, what does this have to do with wealth? And I want to share this with everybody. What it has to do with wealth, or the journey to get there, is about distractions. It's about the things that can distract us from getting to our destination because of what we don't know. Bob, am I right about that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm itching to take it to the business arena.
Okay, well, you know what? It's no more, Bob. Let's take it to the business arena. I'm moving this sheet over. Let's go to the next one. Talk
Well,
about it in business, please.
in business, it's just absolutely critical, and if you're in business in a partnership, it's especially critical that both partners understand what they're committed to in the business, and even I'll take that even one step further. I I used to do management consulting, and one of the things that I often said to my business clients is they saw this new market, they were going to go into the market, and I asked them very succinctly and very directly, are you really committed to that market? Because often people go into business and they're not committed to the market that they're going to do business in. And the real indicator of the fact that they are not committed to that particular market is the moment they hit the first glitch, they have the first problem in attacking the market or approaching the market, they take their marbles and run. Very clearly a problem. And so you see all kind of people going into business, and they're going to do this stuff, but if they're not, one of the fundamental things they have to do is they have to be committed to that market. And if they're not committed to that market, guess what? The first sign of trouble, they fold up their tents and run. So commitment is everywhere. It's almost kind of fundamental to being a human being. We have to be committed, and we have to be clear about what we're committed to in business, in relationships, in jobs, all over the place. Anywhere there's a possibility of moving life forward, we have to be committed somehow to doing that, and we have to be consciously committed to moving life forward.
Well, I'm reading I'm on page 21, applying the process in business, and I'll tell you what, I want the business that Abraham has here. It says J. Abraham, the phenomenal marketing consultant who charges $5,000 an hour for a phone consultation, wrote a report explaining his philosophy. And you go on to say in that report, entitled "Advanced Strategy of a Premirance Transcript," he uses the word commitment in a business content extensively. It says that if the concept of commitment is good enough for him, it certainly is good enough for us in our business. So here's my question. Do we sit down with each business partner and take this sheet and say, what are you committed to? What am I committed to? And let's work the things that we're committed to. We can do those together. How does that work when you're doing this with a business partner? And if you have multiple partners, how does that get done?
Well, I think you have to, if you only have one partner, you have to sit down with that partner and say, let's take a look at what we're committed to here. And I want to know what you're committed to in this business, and I want to tell you what I'm committed to. And I'm telling you, in partnerships especially, I had a partner once in a business that I had, and we were going along gangbusters, and I didn't do that with him. And we came down to a point where it was a choice to spend $900 for some advertising versus not spending money for advertising. And I had made a commitment that I wasn't going to spend any money for advertising.
Whoa, okay. How'd that work out, Bob?
I am now a solopreneur.
That $900 must have been a huge issue.
It became a huge issue, and because I came from a kind of a marketing perspective that there are lots of other ways that you can promote your business without spending a great deal of money on advertising. And he came from the perspective of you advertise, and we had never talked about that. We had never committed to that one way or the other. And it ultimately became a showstopper for us because we parted ways. And there were other issues, of course, but that was the one that came up to be the real showstopper in our business relationship and our partnership. So
Wow.
it can come back to bite you. if you don't understand what both parties are committed to, or multiple partnerships, or multiple partners, or a single partner. You've got to understand what they're committed to, and they've got to understand what you're committed to.
And therein lies for everybody that is watching our broadcast, whether you're watching it today, whether you watch it tomorrow, rewatch it, whatever the case may be, notice something that was pretty powerful. That's why we call commitment the 13th key, because that issue became a distraction and it took away from the whole. Am I right, Bob? Was that a major distraction?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We talked about that for 2 months before we dissolved our partnership. it took a lot of
Wow.
it took a lot of time and energy, uh, just to deal with that. So yeah, just
Here's a question I have for you, Bob. Well, I guess I don't know that this is really a good qualifier, because my question is, knowing what you know now, if that discussion had come up when you were looking at your commitments, would is the likelihood you would have not gone into business?
uh, well, I would have gone into business, but I would have probably found another partner. The business I was in was very good, and so I was going to go and be in the business no matter what. Uh, so sometimes you have to kind of like punt that partner and go ahead and get another partner. It doesn't stop you from doing business. It just makes you realize you're trying to do it with the wrong partner, and that's what you discover. And it's not the partner's bad. There's nothing wrong with my partner, except we didn't agree on our commitments. And he's perfectly fine, and I'm perfectly fine. We're not bad people. It's just that we did not agree on, we didn't have a common set of commitments, or commitments that we could support mutually. And
I like a statement called, "We can agree to disagree."
yeah,
So here's my thought process or question. If he had said to you, listen, I'll take the $900, I'll put it up so we can advertise, would that have made a difference to you?
oh yes, it probably would have, but we never got to that discussion.
Ah, wow. Okay, so I see that was in fact huge. That
Yeah.
was huge. Okay. Well,
So anyway,
go ahead. Go ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
What I wanted to share with our audience is, right now, there have got to be nuggets that you got out of here. And in some cases, I'm thinking there's subliminal nuggets that we may not be necessarily conscious of what we've gotten here. One of the major pieces that comes out of this, and there should be some hashtagging around commitment. Hashtag I am committed to what? One of the things that I noted that Bob had in the book was the capital I and the capital AM. I am. Bob, talk to us about the I am of commitment.
Well, very good. Yes, I read somewhere, and I've done a lot of work in self development and uh, esoteric readings, and so forth and so forth. And one of the things I ran across that was very powerful for me was the use of the I am principle. And if you look at ancient wisdom, uh, and you can even go to the Bible and find instances of the power of I am. And I read a quasi-scientific paper that confirmed something for me, and that is that this. I hope this doesn't sound too strange, but our cells, every cell in our body has intelligence. And when you make a statement like I am, that intelligence sits up and listens, and it signs up for whatever the I am is, if that doesn't sound too strange. So what I'm saying is,
No, it doesn't, Bob. It does not sound strange. Trust me on that one.
I am is a very powerful message to all the cells of your body, and those cells will move accordingly. So when you make a statement like, I am thus, I am well, I am happy, I am, your cells hear that and they take the appropriate action. Uh, so I don't have any hard scientific proof of that, but I certainly believe it to be a powerful part of who we are as human beings. And it's a very powerful part of our consciousness. And so we should use those I am principles in every instant that we can. And you'll notice this in people, by the way. If people get up in the morning and say, I am sick, guess what?
Mm-hmm. They will be sick.
That day. Or I'm unhappy. Or I'm depressed. That's one of the big ones. I am depressed. Well, guess what? They're going to be depressed for the rest of the day. You can't get them out of it. But if people, on the other hand, get up and say, I'm excited, and I know you do this quite a bit, Brent, I'm excited. I'm ready to go. Let's make something happen. I am going to make it happen. Well, those are the things that invigorate you can feel the invigoration in your body. So I kind of rest my case. I'm sure many people have experienced that.
Well, you know what? I'm sure that there clearly is a group of people that have said, I've experienced that. I get that. Yes, hashtag, that's my nugget. Then there are those that are going, yeah, that sounds a little corny to me.
Yeah, it was really airy-fairy, right?
Yeah, that's just a little too, yeah, that doesn't get it. But yet, I don't know where the scientific proof would be there or if there is a such thing, but we do know that there is the law of attraction. We know that there is energy, and energy draws itself. There are times when we draw people to ourselves. We don't even realize why we're drawing people, but we draw them to ourselves anyway. And that's that powerful attraction. Like attracts like. Yes?
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned energy, and it really is an energy thing. I am creates a certain energy, and it translates. It's another way of thinking about it. It translates that energy throughout our bodies and throughout our mind and throughout our whole being, actually. So that's a great way of thinking about it, is that it's a matter of using and communicating and transferring that energy from that statement. And another piece of that is actually when we begin to realize that our word is law in our universe, then the word I am becomes, the phrase I am becomes even more powerful once we realize how important our word is in the universe and in our universe. And that's another piece of that.
Got you. Absolutely have you on that one. I'm going to move just a moment over to page 22. Getting rid of the past, reaching back for yesterday. Talk to us about that, Bob.
Yeah, well, that's that song that Diane Warwick made popular, getting rid of, reaching back for yesterday. And I think we do that. I think we just have to. And that's part of, you mentioned step 7, that's part of what's going on in step 7 is absolutely disassociating oneself from the past. by getting rid of those old commitments we had in such a dramatic way. That's definitely a piece of the action we need to take in getting rid of our past. There are one of the things we need to do, and is very helpful, is get to the point where our past becomes a soap opera, and that happened to somebody, and we're no longer at the mercy of it, or really have a lot of energy tied up in our past. Let's use our energy to move forward. Let's use our energy to be in the moment. Let's use our energy to create our future. Let's use our energy to look forward, to drive forward, to push forward. Let's not tie our energy up with what happened in the past.
I love the rest of the song, or that quote, "A fool will lose tomorrow, reaching back for yesterday." I think is pretty poignant. I just wanted to read something for the audience. You say in your book, you can't afford to get stuck in trying to recapture or reproduce it. The present moment is all we really have. Each present moment is a precious gift that you can exploit to achieve your life's goals and commitments. Why wallow in the past? Um, that is so phenomenally well said. It is so phenomenally well said. Bob, wanted to come back to you on one point, reference the business. When you are in a business group that is large, do you do this in a group fashion? Would you ever do the commitments in a group fashion, or is this always a one-on-one?
Uh, that's a great question. There are ways to do it. I've seen it done in a group. I've seen people make a request for a group commitment, and it can be done. I would think that you'd want to do that at some level. It may not necessarily be as detailed as you would normally uh, question commitments, or share commitments on a one-to-one basis. But certainly there are some key commitments that teams can and should make to each other, and have those commitments clearly stated as part of. Sometimes this gets done in the form of a mission statement. Sometimes it gets done in the form of a charter. Sometimes it gets done uh, as a statement or a declaration of the group's goals. So in that sense, it can be done kind of in that format. Rather than a list of things, it can be done in the format of mission statements and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Uh, but the other part of it is that it the key here is that it should be done consciously. Consciously, people join teams and they just get on the team. Oh, you're on the team now. Well, wait a minute. You're on the team. What are you committed to be in being on the team? What are you committed to? Are you committed to the team's goals? Are you committed to the team attitude? You're committed to the team spirit. You're committed. What are you committed to in joining this team? And I think that should be a basic part of the recruitment process, or the acceptance process, is what are you committed to in being on this team. You do it. It's done in a way because if you look at the people who are on Wealth Warriors, what are they committed to in terms of the group?
Well, one for showing up. That's one definitely for showing up, for taking in the information that we need them to take in. But there is also action. Well, action is showing up. Yes.
Well, yeah, part of the action is showing up, but uh, that might be a question for the group to
To
consciously
explore.
tackle. What are you, as a member of the Wealth Warriors team, what are you committed to, and what are
Mm.
you committed to?
Somebody needs to put that question in the thread. As wealth warriors, what are we committed to? Did I say that right, Bob?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's going to be a question that definitely, I think I might put that in a survey. I think I might put that in a survey because that is something that's very definitely needed. What are we committed to? Are we committed to the boot camp that's going to start in October? Are we committed to that? Because we know that part of that foundation is real estate. So are we committed to being part of a boot camp? Are we really committed to being wealthy? We say that's what we want, but are we committed to that four-letter word? What is that four-letter word? Work.
Yes.
You know what's funny about that, Bob? Some people say, "Oh man, I just did 40 hours of work. I don't feel like having to work some more."
Uh,
And what do you say to somebody like that, Bob?
are you committed? What are you committed to?
Are you committed? I love it. Okay, you gave me all those excuses. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to say, "Are you committed? What are you committed to?" I love that. I absolutely love that. I want to share with people, you gave some phenomenal examples. You start off, you said, I am committed to doing, being, and having the following in my life. Before I go over this list, Bob, what is the significance of doing, being, having, those particular three words? What's the significance of that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. That's what that allows us to focus on who we are as human beings. As human beings, we are going to be doing something, and we are also going to be a certain uh, in a certain state of mind and body and so forth. And we are also going to have stuff. So that's kind of the simplistic view of who we are as human beings. We're either doing something, we are either being something, or we're either having something. Those are the general states that we're in, and we're usually doing all of those simultaneously or at the same time. So uh, we're being a certain way, and we are doing a certain set of things oft all the time, and we're having the results of our doing and being. So I think that that kind of ties it together as far as the concept.
I got you. I got you. Okay, so folks, what are you doing, being, or having? I wanted to share with you this list. Boy, Bob, some of these things are so eloquently written. It says here, I am committed to creating and having a growing business that has a consistent high level of ongoing cash flow. Can I adopt that one? I like that statement.
Yes, that's what you're reading from is an example that I put in the book of a set of commitments that I made, I think back in April '84. That's a long time ago. Is that the date I have on it? I'm
No,
not
actually,
looking.
you have 98. You have April 13th, 1998.
That's where it was in 1998, and that was a set of things that I was committed to, and I put that in the book as an example of how to express your commitments, how to write them down, how to organize them, Although I don't think that, as I remember, that list is not that organized, but certainly you want to organize it into areas of your life. Like,
Well, it's pretty good. Here's another one for our audience. I am committed to having an upscale, luxurious lifestyle that is easily supported by my ongoing business.
yes,
Wow, powerful.
yeah, you could copy those for sure.
Oh, I'm adopting some of those onto my own because
Yeah.
they are just
Wait,
are
you can
so
always add to your list.
well. That was a question I was going to ask. Once you've made the list, I've made the list. Am I able to add to the list?
Yes, I consider that to be what I call an organic list, and that is that it's growing, expanding, and always becoming more defined and edited and all that stuff. So yes, that is your list. You can modify it as you wish. Uh, I would hold on to it in its present state for about 21 days, as I suggested.
Mhm.
But as things come up, you'll find new things that you want to be committed to. That's called growth as human beings. So you'll want to. That's one of the reasons I suggest reviewing that list is to see if you want to. You may not want to continue to be committed to those things that you put on that list today. You may.
That was what I was going to ask you, Bob. Can you take things off the list as you're still working in your presence?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And what you'll do is you'll see some of the things on the list that actually come to fruition. So you want to take those things off. You want to, the way to use this list is a way of creating, by the way.
Okay.
You should note that. And so in your creative process, you want to take things off the list. If you want more of that, so you've accomplished something on the list, you can put it right back on the list. You can scratch it off, showing to your subconscious mind that you've accomplished that, and then you can put it right back on because you want more of that.
Okay. All righty. Okay. You have one here that says, I am committed to having full and complete success in every area of my life, relationships, business, family, spiritual growth, acting, writing, and living life fully. Well, that's like one fell swoop. Um, one wouldn't want to break that down into sentences.
You might want to do that. It's your list. It's it has to be stated in a form that you agree with, and that's why it's hard to take things off people's lists because you might want to state that an entirely different way, or you might want to take each of those things and say, I'm committed to being a successful writer. I am committed to being a successful business person. You might want to make that a list unto itself. So yes, you're free to do
Whatever I want to do with my list.
and it makes sense to you. That's the key. That
Okay.
makes sense to you.
Bob, you said as we're wrapping up, there were a couple more things that I wanted to touch upon. One of those was you said that you should review the list every 3 to 6 months. What should that mean to everybody that's now realized, yes, I want to be committed. I want to go through the work. What is the 3 to 6 months? What's the significance of that?
Yes, what I recommend is that you do that entire commitment process every three, possibly every 6 months. And that is you go through all 8 steps of the commitment process, just as if you were starting new. And that way, if you do that, you won't get stuck anyplace. you probably will get stuck, but you'll be able to get unstuck if unconsciously you've become stuck in some place. If you become obsessed with something that you probably no longer want to be obsessed with, uh, you should take a look and go through the entire process at least every 6 months. If you want to really create miracles in your life, I would suggest you do it every 3 months.
Every 3 months. Okay, so back through the process, and I assume that it gets easier each time.
Well, no, there are no guarantees there.
No guarantees?
No
Oh,
guarantees. It may be even more difficult.
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I don't know. It'll become more familiar, right? Let's put
Okay.
it that way. I don't know
And
about
that's the best part is that it'll become more familiar because it's still a job and a journey.
yeah, it's a journey for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bob, thank you very, very much. Again, I am sure that when I took a detour and put in a key, a keys 13, people were sitting there going, what in the world? But I've got to tell everybody that it is a wonderful process to see where you are at in your lives right now, to see what you are doing right now. I was amazed at some of the things that I saw myself doing and writing it out, just like we write our goals, writing things out was phenomenally powerful. It made such a significant difference. And I just can't begin to express, one, how powerful it can be to bring things to us. Instead of us always having to chase things, let's bring things to us because the attraction makes that happen. That's one. Secondly, it is about work. If you stop and you look at some of the people that have reached those pinnacles, they will tell you that it was work because even if it's passed on to you, in order for you to create the legacy to pass it on to the next, the work needs to be done. And I can remember in the industry that I'm in, we kind of tried to tell, no, we didn't kind of, we kept saying, no, 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 it's not that much work. It is, but here's the deal. If you could do this for a short period of time, 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, and it creates change in your life, would it be worth it? And you know what, at the end of the day, you got to tell yourself, yes, it would be. Hey, Bob, before we go, give us some final thoughts or words that you have regarding this journey that we've been on relative to commitment. What would you wrap it up and say?
Yes, I just want to
Did we
the
lose you?
words
Okay, please go right
would
ahead.
create a sense of, and I'm not doing this. And even if you don't believe it, even if you
Okay, Bob, we're losing you a little bit. Try that one again, even if you don't. What was that again?
to take advantage of, of my free offer to do this, do it, do it, do it, and then worry about it later. But if only I can impress upon the listening audience that this is one of the most powerful things you'll probably ever do. And it's not hype, it's not wishful thinking, it's absolutely critical to your life and can be a critical component in moving you forward, especially in the big arena of being a wealth warrior. It's just very important for you. So,
Well said, sir. Well said. What is it? Just do it, right?
yeah,
Oh
just
my, that was so, Bob, that was so well said. Just get it done. The sooner you get it done, the sooner you are on course for what we all said we wanted, which is why we are here, and that is to create wealth, not only for ourselves, but for generation after generation after generation. I want to thank Robert H. Randolph, author, entrepreneur, global entrepreneur, for being with us, for giving us his pearls of wisdom. And I encourage everybody, take advantage of it. It is such a life. It cuts out the showstoppers and it gives you trajectory. We're going to be here again next week. Wealth Warriors, we are on a movement to create wealth, and it is work and it is worth it. And the words of Trevor Otts, please go out and be absolutely amazing. See you next
Thank
week. You're welcome. Bye now.